Hi, folks. This is another edition of the show, the Stuart Doll Show, starring myself, Stuart Doll, coming to you live from my house right here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, where the current temperature is about 14 degrees, and it's supposed to reach a high of 20 today. We should reach that high here in Winnipeg, and there's supposed to be a low of +1. And then tomorrow it's supposed to be sunny again, and then Thursday and Friday, and then cloudy during the day, Saturday, and then a 60% chance of showers in the evening. And it looks like there's going to be showers again on Sunday, but it'll help. The showers will help type of thing, just to kind of clear away the dust and dirt and all that stuff. Even though there's people crews out there already doing the spring cleaning around the city of Winnipeg. So let's just get right into my show. As you all probably know, yesterday was the provincial election yesterday, and it was the Manitoba provincial election was contested by the NDP party led by Greg Salinger, and the Progressive Conservative Party led by Brian Pallister, and the Manitoba Liberal Party led by Rana Bacardi. For months, all the parties, not just the NDP or the Liberal or the PC, but the Green Party and all that have been you know trying to get as much votes as they can, and and trying to get as many seats as possible in the Manitoba legislative building. And last night, yesterday, his vote was an 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 a historic vote because um, the Progressive Conservative Party, led by their leader Brian Pallister, who's, by the way, if you for you people that are on YouTube that are from Winnipeg or any other places in Manitoba like Selkirk, Thompson, basically from around Manitoba. As you people don't know, for the last 17 years, the New Democratic Party, for short, the NDP Party, have been in power in Manitoba for the last 17 years. And Greg Selinger has been Manitoba's premier for I can't remember how long it's been, but long story short, this is just these are my opinions. I'm entitled to my opinions, and for you people out there, basically, if you don't like my opinions, that basically I can basically tell you where to go and how to get there, type of thing, just plain and simple. Um, anyways, in the last few years of that Greg Selinger, I could say Manitoba, former Manitoba Premier Greg Selinger has made some really stupid and boneheaded decisions, and that which have pretty much gotten the entire province of Manitoba on angry. For one thing that got that this is one reason why Greg Selinger and the NDP party did not get my vote, was because Greg Selinger hiked the PST, better known as the provincial sales tax, from 7 to 8%. And if he came back into power, sorry about that, folks. If Greg Selinger and the NDP party had come back into power, from what I heard, he would have raised the PST to 10%, and that would have just really made the really make a lot of Manitobans extremely angry, especially me, because then that would have meant we've been paying a lot more on on food, clothing, when we go out to, even, to simply, have a cup of coffee or, have lunch or dinner or breakfast or whatever. That's just the point I'm making. If Greg Selinger and the NDP party were still in power, from what I heard, he would, the PST would have gone up to 10%. And that's just not right, especially for those people making an honest living, and for those people that are maybe having a tough time, going through some tough times, and stuff like that. Like in my opinion, Greg Selinger and the entire NDP party are just basically and simply just a bunch of world class boneheads. And again, that is my opinion. If for you people, if you do not like it, I will basically tell you where to go and how to get there, and that's my opinion. I'm entitled to it. What else? Sometimes politics here in Manitoba can be really strange and rocky at times, and not just here. Politics can be rocky, and we're not just here in Manitoba, but all over Canada. I wouldn't say really so much in the United States, but like in Europe and that, especially right now, with the ongoing migrant crisis, in my opinion, I think some countries in Europe are not doing enough to help these migrants and that. I understand both sides of the story. I understand most European countries' point of view. They're afraid some of these migrants could be criminals, or they could be members of ISIS or whatever. I understand that point of view. The other point of view I understand, from these migrants' point of view, is all they simply want is they want a better life for themselves, for their families, and that sort of stuff. But unfortunately, sometimes trying to get to Europe, from like the Mediterranean, from Africa, Libya, all these places where all these migrants are coming from. Sometimes these have tragic consequences for these migrants, because the human smugglers that are bringing these migrants over are basically they don't care about what these migrants want, or if they want a better life or whatever. All these human smugglers and that are trying to do, they basically want to make money, type of thing. And to me, that's just not right, type of thing. What else? Well, right now the NHL playoffs are have just gotten started, and it'll be interesting to see who wins the Stanley Cup this year, because the majority of the teams that are in the Stanley Cup playoffs are American teams. Is there any Canadian teams? No. Basically, what I mean by that, Canadian teams, I mean teams like Vancouver, Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal, Edmonton, Calgary, Winnipeg. Um, I think I seem to be forgetting one, but I can't remember to be honest. But long story short, there's absolutely no Canadian teams in the NHL playoffs, and the last Canadian team to actually win a Stanley Cup was the Montreal Canadiens back in 1993, which I think is pretty sad in that for Canada. And I think and I think the team in the NHL that is basically I call the joke of the not only of the entire NHL, but of Canada or the Toronto Maple Leafs, or as I call them, the Toronto Maple Leafs, because they're just simply a joke. Because how long has it been since the Toronto Maple Leafs have won a Stanley Cup? Oh, wait, I believe it was 1966, 67, something like that. But that's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is it's pretty sad that year after year after year after year, and that has a Canadian team won a Stanley Cup? No. The last three teams to win Canadian teams to win a Stanley Cup are the Montreal Canadiens, the Edmonton Oilers back in '85, the year that Wayne Gretzky left the Edmonton Oilers to go play for the Los Angeles Kings, and also the Toronto Maple Leafs. I believe like I said, in 1966 or '67. I honestly can't remember. What else? As you all know, right now, like I've said before, right now is the 71st anniversary of the Battle of Berlin, and right now, today, would be day 5 of the Battle of Berlin. On this day, April 20th, 1945. Now, like I've said before, the first 4 days of the Battle of Berlin were fought along a defensive line, which was basically blocking the road to Berlin that ran across the Zelo Heights, which was a 165-foot ridge overlooking the German town of Zelo. And that was the Zelo Heights were a very heavily fortified position that the Germans very carefully prepared with machine gun nests, machine gun positions, anti-tank ditches, basically the German Wehrmacht basically wanted to inflict as many casualties and bloodshed amongst the Soviet Red Army, with the two main army groups that were going towards Berlin. The first Belarusian front, commanded by Marshal Georgy Zhukov, and the first Ukrainian front, commanded by Ivan Stanovich Konya. Basically, the whole aim of it was I believe it was February 1945. The Soviet Red Army stopped on the line of the River Oder, the Oder-Neisse River line, basically to give the troops much needed rest, and to bring up supplies and that of like artillery shells, ammunition for their various weapons, and food and fuel and all that logistical stuff to for the Battle of Berlin. And for you people that don't know about the Battle of Berlin, it was basically the most bloody, bitter, and most savage battle ever fought not just in World War II, but on German soil, and that because it basically this was not going to be, the Battle of Berlin was not an easy cakewalk the bat for the Soviet Red Army of the various army groups like the First Belarusian Front, the First Ukrainian Front, and all the supporting army groups that were involved in the Battle of Berlin, or known as the Berlin Strategic Offensive. What else? I guess you could say really what led up to the Battle of Berlin was the first major German defeat was at the Battle of Stalingrad. Pardon me, in 1942, and then again in 1943 at the Battle of Kursk. So basically, after the Battle of Stalingrad, the Soviet Red Army started, pushing westwards. Basically, in other words, clearing all, German resistance out of the Soviet Union, and basically pushing the German military as all the way back into Germany's backyard, practically. So that's what led up to the Battle of Berlin. What else? And the only in the I believe on this date, April 20th, 1945, was the last Allied 1,000 bomber raid of World War II on Berlin. And again, in some ways, like the Allies were trying to bomb Berlin. Basically, the whole objective of this was to demoralize the German people and that, and then they would think, oh, they wouldn't have the stomach, in that for a bloody, bitter, and savage battle with the Soviet Red Army. And in some ways, the Allies, the Western Allies, did not do the Soviet Red Army any favors, because by bombing the German capital Berlin, it made huge bomb craters and that, which basically meant like tanks couldn't really move through the streets of Berlin, and it also gave perfect cover to German snipers and German German troops firing from the various buildings and that. So in all regards, the Battle of Berlin was basically the most bloody, bitter, and savage battle of World War II. So like in some and basically the only because the German military were running so short of man of manpower, equipment, and that in October of 1944, the then German leader Adolf Hitler, who by the way is a World War I vet before he got into politics. Hitler had authorized the raising of a national militia called the Volkssturm, which was basically a people's militia. So basically that meant the only people left in Berlin were basically teenagers and old men. So basically that meant any German male between the ages of 16 and 60 were eligible for conscription into the Volkssturm. And basically for the punishment for anybody that is caught as a deserter, that is trying to escape conscription from the Volkssturm, is basically punished by death by basically SS execution squads that basically roam the streets of Berlin in search of deserters. And basically, anybody basically ordinary German officers and soldiers that were caught as deserters by the SS were basically either A, executed by a firing squad, or they were basically or they were hunted at. Basically, it was supposed to be as a deterrent, for those people thinking of trying to escape conscription of the Volkssturm. Now the Volkssturm and that had very little weapons whatsoever. They had maybe a few Dutch or Italian rifles and maybe a few few ammunition cartridges. Sorry, folks. But the Volkssturm had a lot of Panzerfaust. Now, Panzerfaust were so very cheap and very inexpensive for the Germans to produce. The Germans produced about 6 million Panzerfaust from 1943 to the end of World War II in 1945. And the Panzerfaust were so easy to use. Any German civilian, woman or child or old men or teenagers, in the Volkssturm and that. Basically, Panzerfaust was so easy to use that any German civilian and any member of the Volkssturm or the Hitler Youth can use it, and the Panzerfaust had about a killing range of about 60 meters. So literally, like all they could do, they could stand behind a corner, they could lay on a pile of rubble, and that would basically be the end of a Soviet tank. And for you people that don't know, the Panzerfaust could penetrate up to 200 millimeters of armor. So that was basically bad news for for Soviet T-34 85 tanks, and it was also bad news for East-2 heavy tanks, or known as the Joseph Stalin 2 tanks. And the Joseph Stalin tanks were built by the Soviets as a direct response to the German Panther, King Tiger, and that. And even though it had a slow rate of fire, the Soviet East-2 heavy tank basically had a 122 millimeter cannon. Even though it had a slow rate of fire, it was terrifying for German tank crews. And that what else? And basically both sides, the German military and the Soviet Red Army, basically tried anything that would give them an added chance of survival. For example, for the Soviet Red Army, they even tried putting steel mesh around their tank's hull and that, to prevent. And that, but in most cases it didn't work. It didn't work because once the Panzerfaust blew inside a tank, all the spitting metal and shrapnel and that, it would basically kill all the Soviet tank crews that were inside it, and even the commander too. And not all Soviet tank commanders were heavily built in that, but the one Soviet tank commander that was the most heavily built was Andreev Kravchenko. Basically, he was so heavily large for a tank commander. When he sat in his command seat, it was very hard to close the hatch because he was so heavily large and tall for a tank commander. So, what else? Also on this day, April 30th, 1945, this was Adolf Hitler's 56th birthday, and basically this was his last public appearance in front of the cameras, and he awarded medals and that for the fighting on the Eastern Front, and then And then, the Battle of Berlin, dragged on and that. And then basically on April 25th, 1945, the people of Berlin got were the most bad news on earth. 15 miles west of the city, the army groups of Yogi Zhukov and Ivan Stanovich Konyev met 15 miles west of Berlin and completed the encirclement of the city, which basically meant there was basically no escape for the desperate garrison or any civilian whatsoever. What else? Other than that, I've had a, I've had a, good day so far. Went and did, strength for swimming this morning at the YMCA, and that, then also went to Week Opportunity West, met up with my mom and had a nice surprise and had some lunch at Moxie's, and it was I've had a really good day so far. And that, what else? I also have a very good group of friends that I have a lot of friends in that I've had over the years. People such as like Aaron Forster Milner, Tyler Reynolds, Jonathan Alexander Moline, Shane Stocklund, Joseph Hines. Like, there's so many friends in that I've had over the years that I've gone to elementary and middle school with, and people that I know through my girlfriend and that. And don't forget, folks, these people, friends of mine that I've known for over 20 years that I've mentioned in that. This is YouTube in that. I'm not telling you where they live or what city they live in, just because there's always the potential that there can be crazy and psychotic people out there. So that's why I don't tell you where they live in that type of thing, especially with friends of mine that I know through my girlfriend and that. But I have a very good group of friends and people that, like I've said, people that I've known since my elementary, middle school days, and all that other, and friends from other places, from swimming and wrestling and bowling and curling and that. Um, oh, what else? As you all probably know, in less than a month, it'll be the European Championship, better known as Euro. And for you people that don't know what the European Championship is, it's like the World Cup. It's held every 4 years, and it just so happened this year, this June, the European Championship will be held in France from June 16th to July 10th. And the first part of the tournament, there's the group stage and that, and usually, and because there's 24 teams, they're divided up into groups of four, and I believe they play each other at least maybe once or twice, and then the top two teams from each group go on to the round of 16, and then basically it's basically you win, you go on, you lose, you pack it up, and you go home, type of thing. What else? Other than that, it looks like Germany will have most of their members of their national team. Yeah, minus Philip Lahm, who retired from international play after the 2014 World Cup. And most of the people that are part of the German national squad are people like Bastian Schweinsteiger, Thomas Mueller. Yeah, like there's so many members of Germany's national squad. I can't, name all of them off the top of my head, type of thing. But looks like the European Championship is going to be an awesome one this time around. What else? Yeah, and I'm sorry for you, my subscribers and that on YouTube and people on YouTube in general. Um, I'm trying to make as many videos as I possibly can, for my show, the Stuart Dahl Show. But sometimes it's hard because of I'm always busy with work and sports that during the fall and winter months and that. But I'm gonna be ending most of my sports and that. Like I've already ended curling for the season. I'm almost done bowling for the season, and I don't know exactly when I end swimming for the season. But then there's not. I'm not as busy during the summertime, because I don't have sports during the fall and winter months. What else? Well, on that note, this has been another edition of my show, The Stuart Dahl Show, for you young people. Stay in school, stay out of trouble, you'll do fine, and that, just, for you young people, respect your elders and, that type of thing. But on that note, Auf Wiedersehen, peace, and bye bye, and just stay cool, my friends.